Hello, good afternoon. A very happy Doctor's Day to all of you. सर्वांना आषाढी एकादशीच्या हार्दिक शुभेच्छा. So we were discussing regarding the urinary tract infections or urinary tract disease. I know it's buffering, but both BSNL connection, Airtel connection, both have the problems. We have to continue with it because I have changed my location also, but still the problem still persists. We'll continue with it. Today's sessions, tomorrow we'll find it out some other solution for it. So we have considered there are 4 varieties of diseases of the urinary tract. Basically, first is the obstructive variety. Second variety is that is the infective variety. The third variety, that is the renal calculi formation, and fourth is neoplastic variety. Out of which the first 2 yesterday we have discussed, that is the obstructive and infective, and we have discussed the how this obstruction leads to infection, producing the urethritis, the cystitis, the acute as well as chronic cystitis, and one mother tincture we have discussed, that is the sarsaparilla in yesterday's session. So these are the disorders which we commonly get in our homeopathic practice, and these are very essential to handle. In fact, maximum homeopathic medicines are available for those pathologies, and it's necessary to treat them with the help of homeopathy. If we acquire knowledge of all those pathologies along with a proper understanding regarding the remedies, then you can apply it clinically and you can get very good results on the basis of that. So we have discussed the first 2 varieties. In today's sessions we'll cover one more variety, that is the renal calculi. Generally what happens, we used to consider the homeopathic remedy on the basis of just whether it is right-sided renal calculi or left-sided renal calculi, and apply our remedies. My suggestion is that first understand the renal calculi, the pathophysiology behind the renal calculi, how these renal calculi can be formed, why they are formed, and how one can tackle them. And that's why basically when we learn, there are basically 3 types of renal calculi which are present. The first one, that is the oxalate stones are there, and when you look towards those stones, their surface is quite rough over there. They are generally brownish in color because of the old blood pigment over there, and the rough appearance on it itself suggests that they are called calcium oxalate stone. The second stones, that is the uric acid stones, they are generally, or uric stones, they are generally very soft externally. So these are again of a light brown color, and they are very soft externally. The third variety which is there, which are phosphate stones, and their surface sometimes at certain level there is flaking of the surface with they are grayish white in appearance, and these are the third variety of the stones, the renal calculi. So uric acid and urates, these are generally the second, where you get very clear cut surface over the stone. So this indicates what type of stone it is, and you can consider accordingly while treating that. And that's why this external appearance is also important to understand regarding the renal calculi. Then the site of formation. Generally, when you consider this, there are 2 suggestions are there, 2 theories which are considered where they are formed and how they are formed. Generally, it has been considered they are either formed in the collecting tubules and then pass into the renal pelvis. This is one theory with which, and they enlarge in renal pelvis in that way. That is one theory which is considered regarding it. Second important, the deposits are formed in the lymphatics of the renal papillae and are extruded into the renal pelvis. So these are probable theories, no one knows exactly regarding them, And but these are probable theories regarding the site of formation and how they are formed. The mode of formation is very important. Why they are formed? Again, there are a lot of theories, lot of concepts are there, but most probably it is considered that there is excess excretion of the stone substance over there, along with a lot of calcium, and when these both comes together, they generally leads to a super saturated solution of the salt. And when there is a super saturated solution, there are 2-3 things which takes part over there. One important part which lies over there is the lack of urinary fibrinolysis, and because of lack of urinary fibrinolysis, if it is not there, generally there is a protein nidus who ultimately leads to the precipitation of the stone. And one more thing, that is the lack of substance keeping the calcium salt in solution. We have learned while learning the biochemical system of medicine that natron phos is an element which is essential in order to keep the uric acid basically in solution form. If it is lacking, it produces typical salts of it, or sodium urate it can form. So these are the things which are, if they are not there, ultimately these together gathers and forms the stones. This is the most probable theory behind the formation of the stones. What are the predispositions which are there in order to form the stones? First important predisposition which we have to consider while considering this is the urinary pH. If there is a severe acidic reaction which is there in the urine, there you get the urate stones or oxalate stones more commonly. And if the urine is more of alkaline in nature, at that time you will get very typically the phosphate stones. So when urine is acidic, you will get urate and oxalate stones. If urine is alkaline, you will going to get the phosphate stone. Second important precipitating factor is that dehydration over there. So dehydration can lead to this condition and produces a stone. Generally because of the strong or a very concentrated solution happens to be there because of the dehydration, and it leads to the stone formation. The third important thing which happens to be there is because of stasis, obstruction. So obstruction of urine leads to the stasis, stasis leads to the concentrated urine, can lead to stone formation. Then certain renal diseases. The renal diseases where the pH of the urine, and it depends upon also the composition of urine, it makes the changes and leads to the formation of the stone formation. For example, if you will consider over there is a renal disease which is associated with the infection more commonly. This infection leads to a formation of the formation of a more stronger urine, and which ultimately leads towards the formation of stone. Sometimes there are tumors which are there, renal tumors, and these tumors may cause urinary stasis and ultimately ends with the calculi. Then there are certain metabolic factors also. Those metabolic factors also plays a very vital role in the formation of stones. So which are metabolic factors? First is hypercalciuria, that is one important entity. There is oxaluria or oxaluria, you can label it. The third important thing which is there, that there is a urate, more formation of urate or uric acid is there. So these are the entities which causes a metabolic changes over there and ultimately leads towards the basically to the formation of the stones. So these are very common entities. The persons who have a tendency to consume more purine substances. Purine substances means they consume more proteinous substances, and ultimately ends with more uric acid formation, leads towards the calculi. So why these are necessary to understand? These are necessary to understand because when you are dealing with the cases of urinary calculi, you have to tell to all the patients regarding the diet also. Auxiliary measures are very important when you deal with the patients of urinary calculi or renal calculi. and you have to specifically ask them regarding the food. So I generally advise that patient should not take a high protein diet. Then they should not take generally the tomatoes where oxalate is much more, or palak, there is again oxalate crystals are there. This then milk is another where carbonate stones can be formed. So milk is calcium carbonate, it is more in calcium carbonate, can lead to a stone formation. So these are the entities which are very essential to tell to the patient, and this is the auxiliary measures one has to consider. Then what are the effects of the stones on the human body? First important thing is that whenever the stones are there in the kidneys or in the ureters, there is an injury which can happen to it. So while passing the urine and a stone over there, it produces injuries to the urinary tract, sometimes producing a stricture, and that leads towards the impaction of the stone more commonly. So that is very important thing which can happen because of it. This is one effect. Then second important thing, if there is a passage of a big stone which is there, and while passing that, if it gets obstructed, there is complete anuria, stasis happens, and because of back pressure, hydronephrosis of the kidneys, or there is an infection happens more commonly in such types of cases. So these are very important effects one must know. Then if there is a development of a stasis and infection further, the stone formation is commonly happens over there, and this can lead to sometimes one important type of stone which is labeled by the staghorn stones. Staghorn stones are there which covers whole renal pelvis, and it obstructs the total urine, can lead to the severe hydronephrosis, and if there is a severe hydronephrosis, the kidneys cortex is completely get pressed, and if it gets pressed, the tubules gets pressed, there is anuria, ultimately leads towards the renal failure or kidney failure. And that's why if there are staghorn stones present, it is our duty to tell the patient that these are staghorn stones, you have to operate by any means, and you have to remove those staghorn stones instead of treating or managing him on homeopathic trials and trial basis. So we must understand what type of stones are there, and so that you can accordingly, whether there is really a sphere of a homeopathy or homeopathy works or not, that you can think about that. So where there is a scope of homeopathy that one must understand while treating such types of cases. Second important thing, first you have to look for whether that stone is causing any obstructive pathology and danger to the life. If it is causing danger to the life, it is your duty to tell patient that you must get operated so that your kidneys can be saved. So you have to think, the logic you have to utilize when you are treating such types of cases, and this is more tricky situation. So you have to take the decision, sometimes you have to come back and tell the patient regarding it, and then after treating that patient, tell them that in order to prevent the recurrence, you must take the homeopathy for that. So these are the important things one must not forget while handling the cases of stones. The last variety, that is, you can get sometimes the bladder calculi. So bladder calculi generally happens because of the cystitis, which is most common, and they develop directly into the bladder, and sometimes they produces urethral obstruction and even leads to a chronic cystitis. So these are different varieties, different things regarding the renal calculi one must know before treating. And then auxiliary measure, one important entity, they should take maximum water intake. So plenty of fluids is very important answer. Instead of giving directly a hydrotherapy, oral hydrotherapy is very essential. So you must go for ask the patient to take maximum water intake so that it will not produce a strong concentrated urine. and the further stone formation can be prevented. And all those things already I have mentioned that the things which are precipitating factors in the formation of stone, they should be avoided. So this is what regarding the renal calculi. We'll learn 3 important remedies which I used to use as a mother tincture in our regular practice. Everyone knows all those remedies, but just a view regarding all those remedies. The first important remedy I want to discuss with all of you is the Berberis vulgaris. Most common remedy used in stone formation or stone cases, it is barberry, also called as. Clinically, there is a rapid change of symptoms, pain changes in regard to the place and character. Acts forcibly on the venous system, producing pelvic enlargement and the hemorrhoids. Old gouty constitutions, pain in the region of kidney, so useful in kidney and bladder symptoms, the cystitis. So what Boric says is very important. This is very specific remedy for the left-sided ureteric calculi, left-sided renal calculi. Generally, there is a uric acid diathesis is more marked with the Berberis vulgaris. And because of that, you will get more commonly the uric acid stones in cases of Berberis vulgaris. Berberis vulgaris, there is one sensation which everyone knows, that there is a bubbling sensation which starts from the loin and it ends to the groin, and this bubbling sensation used to produce because of left ureteric calculi or left renal calculi, and that patient sometimes denotes it is very important to understand, they labels it directly in the similar manner. So if it is so, my suggestion is that if you are getting Berberis vulgaris very clearly in the case and it indicates completely a Berberis picture, then you must try it in dynamic doses instead of giving in it material doses. But because my aspect of looking towards it, that if you are using it for the purpose of cure, you must use the dynamic doses. Give it in 30 or 200 and repeat it, and it works. Only in cases where you want that immediately the pain should tackle, or you have to tackle the pain, use it palliative in certain types of cases, or you have to control the uric acid with the help of a Berberis vulgaris, then you definitely use the Berberis vulgaris mother tincture in such types of cases. But Berberis vulgaris plays very vital role. It is useful in cystitis. It causes inflammation of kidneys with hematuria. So hematuria is quite common over there. There are burning pains, sensation as if some urine remained after the micturition, very similar to the staphysaguria over there. Urine with thick mucus and bright red mealy sediment. So a thick urine, it is an infective urination. Infection happens to be there, like a sarsaparilla also. But this is because more of concentrated urine, and urine becomes more thick in cases of Berberis vulgaris. There is a bubbling, sour sensation in the kidneys, pain in the bladder region, pain in the thighs and loins on micturating, frequent micturation, and urethra burns when not micturating. So it is very typical left-sided renal calculi, ureteric calculi, where there is burning sensation, bubbling sensation, and pain goes from loin to groin. So it itself suggests that it is ureteric calculi. This remedy is a wonderful remedy to tackle, and you get very good results in such types of cases. Patient comes to you with stones. They collect it and they brings it into your OPD. Doctor, this much of stones, they passed away after starting the treatment. So this commonly happens when you treat such types of cases. So one of the important mother tincture in your day-to-day practice is Berberis vulgaris. Second important, so Berberis is left-sided, the right-sided mother tincture, which all of you know, is the Ocimum canum. So this is a remedy that is a Brazilian alphaveca. I used to use whenever there is right-sided renal calculi or right-sided ureteric calculi. I used to prescribe this Asimum can. If you go with the Borix Medica, again you will find very typical features useful in diseases of kidneys, bladder, and urethra. So it is very typically mentioned that KUB, uric acid diathesis. Again, this remedy covers the uric acid diathesis. Renal sand, red sand in the urine is the chief symptom, which you can get in Lycopodium also. Sometimes even in Sarsaparilla also, you get that red sand in the urine. Renal colic, especially right side, symptoms of renal calculus, high acidity, formation of a spike crystals of the uric acid. So typical crystals of uric acid, they are very commonly you can get in such types of cases. Turbid, thick, bloody, purulent, brick dust, red or yellow sediment over there. So this is very typical in the urine. You can get all those characteristics regarding the stool. Then odor of musk, pain in ureters, cramps in the kidneys. These are the features which are there mentioned regarding the Asimum can. In such types of cases, you have to ask the patient, when you prescribe those mother tinctures, ask the patient to take plenty of fluids along with that and continue with plenty of fluids. They should maintain a proper diet, avoid the things which creates the stones, and then use these mother tinctures. And these mother tinctures generally dose is 15 drops twice a day or 3 times a day, depending upon the situation and purpose with which you are using those mother tincture. And third mother tincture generally I used to use is Pereira brava. So third remedy, that is the virgin wine, which is also called the virgin wine. So in Borix Medica, he mentions this is again a remedy for the urinary calculi. Urinary symptoms are most important, useful in renal colic. There is a prostatic affections and catarrh of the bladder. So this is again very important remedy for the prostate enlargement, benign enlargement of the prostate. Then sensation as if the catarrh of the sensation as if the bladder was distended with pain. So there is a typical sensation, bladder is enlarged, there is a sensation as if there is lot of urine is collected inside and which is not getting passed. Then urine, pain goes down the thighs, typical of ureteric calculi, black bloody thick mucoid urine. See, here the color is very typical. It is black bloody urine. So sometimes it is coagulated blood which is passed over there and associated with a thick mucoid urine over there. Whenever thick mucoid urine is there, generally it suggests that the kidney is at fault. So you must look towards that. That is also important thing one should not forget. There is a constant urging for urination with great straining, and patient strains a lot to pass the urine. It suggests that there might be an obstruction in the passage of urine. Pain down the thighs while making effort to micturate, can emit urine only when he goes on his knees. So this is very typical posture with which he passes the urine, that he has to stand on the knees and then he strains for it, and then it happens that then the urine gets passed. So these positions are very essential to understand. If you get these typical positions, it itself suggests the remedy directly. And if it is so, that itself indicates this is a characteristic. In such situations, you can use the potentized remedy instead of using the mother tinctures. Then there is a again what he says regarding position, can emit urine only when he goes on his knees, pressing the head firmly against the floor. See, this is very odd posture with which he tries to pass the urine, and then only he passes the urine. And this position, if it is specifically mentioned by the patient, it indicates Pereira brava is very characteristic remedy for that case. So these are the situations, these are the specific positions one must not forget while considering the remedies. Then dribbling after maturation. So urine pass dribbling, that is involuntarily it dribbles drop by drop like sarsaparilla. Yesterday also we have discussed about it. Violent pain in glans penis. So it is associated with urethritis, with severe pain, itching along the urethra, urethritis with prostate problems, that is hypertrophy of the prostate. See, he is explaining you the pathology behind that. So Paraira Brava is not only the remedy for the stones, but it is a remedy for the stones along with the pathology at the prostate level, the benign enlargement of the prostate, sometimes prostatic hypertrophy associated with urethritis. See, these are all the things which you have to understand. Whenever any pathology mentioned by the Boric is there, and underline that pathology, open your pathology books or open your dictionary at least, go through that pathology, understand that pathology clearly, so that you will never forget how to use this remedy. And this gives you a detailed idea regarding the disorder. So my suggestion is always that whenever you read the materia medica, always correlate it with your medicine, always correlate it with your pathology, always correlate it with physiology also, so that you can acknowledge all those things and your application becomes simple. You logically correlate the remedies and immediately you can get it in front of your mind whenever the patient comes in such types of situation. So this is one important hint I want to give you. Then only 2-3 features regarding it. Inflammation of the urethra, it becomes almost cartilaginous like gonorrheal urethritis. So miasm, if it is gonorrheal urethritis, miasm is definitely a psychotic. So we have discussed yesterday also that gonococcal urethritis, you can think of the cannabis sativa, you can think of medorinum, you can think of thuja. All those remedies plays very vital role in gonococcal urethritis. Paraira brava is one of them. There are so many mother tinctures. Yes, Chandrakant Bhavkar, he has mentioned regarding hydrangea also there. Yes, that is also one of the mother tincture which can be used in such types of cases. There are much more in fact, but I want to show you an approach how to use. And in a half cup of water, 15 drops. Prachi has asked regarding how much quantity of water. Half cup of water, 15 drops to 20 drops, twice or thrice a day, depending upon situation. You can use any mother tincture. Though should not be given as it is, because it is concentrated, sometimes produces irritation inside the tongue or inside the mouth, and that's why it should be diluted in water and should be given to the patient. Second important use of it is that when you give it in half cup of water, it touches maximum flora of your GI tract and it gets absorbed, as well as it works more fast whenever you give it in such thing. So one more remedy, that is hydrangea. You go through the book, you can find it out, hydrangea for that. But more commonly I used to use the Berberis vulgaris, then the Ocimum can. These are two important remedy I used to follow. And then regarding the Paraira brava or hydrangea. So these are the remedies, and yesterday's remedy, that sarsaparilla, we have discussed. So we are discussing it since last nearly about 3 months have been passed. I think today's session is 97 number session, 97 number video. So lot of things, it changed the total view looking towards the homeopathy, and there were lot of responses from all of you. I'm very much thank you to you, because you are there ready daily at the same time, attending the sessions regularly, and that stimulates my mind to go ahead. Let us, whatever I know, I must share. And if this attitude remains in homeopathy, definitely the homeopathy will reach to all the peoples, and this is my thought, that it should reach to each and every person in this world. So for that purpose, all of you should be there, and we can go with that in future also. I will continue with the sessions tomorrow. I don't know exactly which mother tincture I will going to share with you, but definitely will be there at 2:30. I think it has worked today. There is no buffering throughout, so it's good. I will change my position. I will sit in this cabin so that I can. There will be no disturbance in discussing all those things. And thank you for attending the session. Ask your friends, ask your colleagues to subscribe our channel and go through the videos, and let us learn homeopathy together so that it will reach to each and every person. Thank you, and again a very happy Doctor's Day to all of you, and also a best wishes on this auspicious, very religious day. So thank you being there. We'll meet tomorrow at the same time.